Testing, testing. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. For the record, it's May 2nd, 2024, and the time is 6:30 p.m. I'll begin the roll call, and council, when I call your name, please say here or present. Mayor Maxton.
Here.
Councilmember Stroop.
Here.
Roden.
Here.
Olvera.
Here.
Kerner.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
And Menchow.
Present.
With 7 members of council present, a quorum is declared.
Thank you, Christina. And would everybody please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you for everybody being here tonight, mainly staff, but appreciate y'all being joining the meeting tonight. Yeah, we are pretty safe.
Might as well be staff.
As a reminder, we are live broadcasting tonight's meeting. If you do get an opportunity to speak, I'd ask that you use the microphone up here so that those who are on the live broadcast will be able to hear the remarks also. If you make the remarks from your seat, it won't get picked up by the mic, and those that are watching won't be able to hear the comments. And would like to welcome any of those that have joined us by live broadcast. And if you do get an opportunity to speak, I ask that you introduce yourself and either what department you're from, or if you are a resident of Fair Oaks Ranch. And with that, we'll move on to citizens to be heard. And we didn't have anybody sign up, and we don't have anybody for citizens to be heard tonight. We do have several presentations on the agenda for tonight. And I'll start off with 2 proclamations that we have. And first, if I don't disrupt it too much, could I have Christina and Amanda join me at the podium? Municipal Clerks Week is next week, and it recognizes our municipal clerks, but it's the office of our city secretary. And Amanda and Christina make up that. And a lot of people, when you mention it and you say, hey, we have a city secretary, it goes into their mind secretary. They think executive assistant. But these 2 individuals do far more than any executive assistant could do. And not only that, the responsibilities that are put upon them are pretty extensive, really. And they carry out all those responsibilities to the fullest aspect, and they do that in a very, very professional manner that represents our city. And what it does is it helps our residents, which y'all do on a daily basis. It helps our city staff, and immensely what you do for our council every day to ensure that we stay straight. So tonight we'd like to recognize y'all. At the City of Fair Oaks Ranch 55th Annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week, May 5th through May 11th, 2024. And whereas the Office of the Professional Municipal Clerk is the oldest among public servants and a vital part of our local government, and whereas the Office of the Professional Municipal Clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels. And whereas the professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality, impartiality, rendering equal service to all. And whereas professional municipal clerks serve as the information center for local government and community, managing, preserving, and providing city records to its citizens, thus ensuring a transparent, open government. And whereas professional municipal clerks prepare, post, advertise notices of the agenda for all official public meetings of the city council, boards, and commissions. And whereas professional municipal clerks administer municipal elections according to established election schedules in accordance with all laws, the city charter, the Texas Election Code, regulations, and standards. And whereas professional municipal clerks maintain the seal of the city and affix the seal to all appropriate documents. And whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the professional municipal clerk. Now, therefore, I, Gregory C. Maxton, Mayor of the City of Fair Oaks Ranch, do recognize the week of May 5th through 11th, 2024, as Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend our appreciation to our professional municipal clerks, Christina Pachocchio and Amanda Valdez, and to all professional municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to this community that they represent. So thank you all both. Can we give them a round of applause? You can hold them. And thank y'all for what y'all do every day for us. Us being the city, the residents, the staff, and city council. A second proclamation I have is recognizing Police Week and Police Officers Memorial Day. And we have all our police officers. Y'all want to come up for this too? I know y'all were here for, I know y'all were here for something else, but target of opportunity. And Chief, you can't hide back there. Honestly, I could stand up here all night and talk about all the good things that the Fair Oaks Ranch Police Department does for this city. I think we put it out multiple times. We were the 4th safest city in Texas this past year. We've been in the top 10 of the safest cities in Texas, I don't know, for 10 years now. In only 1 year, we dropped out of that. We dropped to 24th. And that is out of 1,900 cities in the state of Texas. And that is a significant accomplishment. And overall, providing the security that you do every day to our city is extremely important, and you do a great job at that. But beyond that, what our police department does for this city is provide a police department that is integrated with the community. And I think that is so important that we don't have a separate distinction between our department and our residents. And that y'all will reach out, you'll help residents, you talk to residents, you wave to residents, and they do the same to you. And it just opens that line of communications that establishes really what we need to ensure that we have the security of what we need for our city. So I'd like to thank you all personally every day for what you do. I'm sure that council extends that, as does the city staff, but also our residents are very, very appreciative. And I get the comments of what y'all do every day and how appreciative they are of what you provide to this city. So thank y'all. The City of Fair Oaks Ranch, Office of the Mayor, whereas the Congress and the President of the United States have designated May 15th, 2024 as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which it falls as Police Week. And whereas the members of the Fair Oaks Ranch Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of citizens of the City of Fair Oaks Ranch. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the problems, the duties, and the responsibilities of their police department, and that members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence or disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression or intimidation. And whereas the police department of the City of Fair Oaks Ranch has grown to be modern and scientific law enforcement agency with unceasingly provides a vital public service. Now therefore, I, Mayor Gregory C. Maxton, call upon all citizens of the city of Fair Oaks Ranch and upon all patriotic, civil, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 12th through May 18th, 2024 as Police Week, with appropriate ceremonies in which all of our people may join in commemorating police officers, past and present, and who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in doing so have established for themselves an inevitable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. And if we could just give them a round of applause. I don't know, can everybody move over here out of the way of the podium?
Hello, Rose.
Okay, well, we'll just move the podium out of the way. And you're going to get recognized again here in a minute. And I'll turn it over to Jennifer for the next presentation. Or correction, I'll turn it over to Joanna.
Thank you, Mayor, and no worries. Me and Jennifer are interchangeable at this point. So tonight we are recognizing 2 service awards. The first one is for Clifford McClendon. He is our custodian / maintenance worker, and unfortunately he could not be here tonight. But he is also being recognized for 5 years of service with the city, so we do want to just give him a quick round of applause. And then for the member of our team that was able to be here, we are honoring Officer Merrill for starting with the City of Fair Oaks Ranch back in April of 2019. As some of you may recall, Officer Merrill started with the city originally as a utility technician and promoted into the wastewater operator level 1. Around the time that COVID hit, and then promoted again to level 2 later the fall of that year. So as you can tell, as today, Eddie is no longer a utility technician. Since then, he spent about 4 years in the Public Works Department and decided that he wanted to go back into law enforcement. And so then he thus made the transition here at the City of Fair Oaks Ranch. Officer Merrill has 21 years of law enforcement experience, and he has worked for the Potter County Sheriff's Department, the Amarillo Police Department, and the U.S. Department of Energy on their SWAT team. He is also a Master Peace Officer, certified as a TCOL instructor, certified as a field training officer, and has other numerous specialized instructor certifications in officer safety and tactics through the Department of Energy as well. So we do congratulate him on his transition into the police department and for 5 years of service with the City of Fair Oaks Ranch. And as always, we have our plaque and 5-year service award gift.
That is my smile.
Sure y'all don't want to stay.
Come on, Willis. We're no longer safe. As safe.
That completes the presentations that we had on the agenda for tonight. We'll move on to the consent agenda. We had one item on the consent agenda, which is approval of the 18th April 2024 regular city council meeting minutes. Is there any council member that would like to move this item to consideration? With a no, then can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Chesley, in a second. Scott, all in favor of approval of the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Thank y'all. And we have two consideration items on the agenda tonight. First is the consideration and the possible action approving a resolution authorizing the establishment of a tree mitigation fund and the creation of an oak wilt program. And the consideration item that's on the agenda tonight is it's identical to the workshop item that we discussed last time. I think there was a grammatical error that was updated in it. And so there's really no changes to the information that we discussed at the last meeting. But Kelsey's here, and she'll answer any questions that we have before we go into consideration. Nope.
Any questions? No?
And with that, could I get a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the establishment of a tree mitigation fund and the creation of an oak wilt program?
So moved.
I second.
Emily and Laura, any other discussion from council? And I didn't offer, are there any comments or discussion from anybody here tonight? With the motion on the table, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. Thank you,
Y'all-
Kelsey.
Y'all made it easy for me. Thank you.
The second consideration item that we have on the agenda tonight is the consideration and possible action to approve the first reading of an ordinance amending the ordinance 2018-03 by removing the real property ownership requirement in Section 1 Planning and Zoning Commission in item number 3 and providing an effective date. And so with this item, Christina's here, she'll answer any questions that we have. But we had the discussion about amending the rules of procedure for the P&Z, and one of the items that we identified was removing the property ownership requirement. Everybody's tracking that part? And as we went back and reviewed it, the ordinance that establishes the P&Z also had the same language in it. And so in order to update the rules of procedure, we need to update the ordinance first. So that is what this item is, and at the next meeting, when this comes back for the second reading of the ordinance, the rules of procedure will also come at that time. And any questions, Christina's here to answer. Yes,
I
ma'am.
just have a really quick question. Qualified voter, does that mean they have to be registered or just they have to be able to vote in the city?
Dan, could you help us with that one? Qualified voter?
Eligible.
Eligible
Eligible.
to register,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Eligible to register.
That was cool. Thank you.
Question. Do any other of the boards, commissions, council position requirements have that language, or is this the only one?
This was the only one.
Okay. So this is in no other requirement for
To
any
my
other
knowledge,
board?
it's
Okay.
not in any other.
Wasn't even on council.
Yeah.
Anybody else? And questions from anybody here tonight? Then with that, could I get a motion to approve the first reading of an ordinance amending the ordinance 2018-03 by removing the real property ownership requirement in Section 1, Planning and Zoning Commission, item number 3, and providing an effective date?
So moved.
Is that Chesley? And a second
I will second.
from Laura? Any other comments from council? Motion on the table, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Christina. And we have one workshop item on the agenda tonight, and that's to talk about the establishment of a traffic safety committee. And I'll turn this over to our Mayor Pro Tem, Laura Kerner.
Thank you. So I don't have any materials because it's really truly a discussion. Over the last few years, I've, proposed this committee to be formed. It's fairly common in a lot of cities. I know we get a lot of ad hoc traffic safety requests that sometimes take a lot of time, though I do feel like probably warrant a little bit more planning and discussion. And and I know often gets a lot of resident feedback. So how a lot of cities handle this is they have, and it's fairly common, a traffic safety advisory committee, which is typically composed of residents, citizens. It's an advisory committee. I've pulled some in the area and across, like, locating cities and states around us. Most are about 5 to 10 people. So, and I would say that probably the best of ones that describe what they do would be, it serves as, I'll just read this one out. This is a 7-member Traffic Safety Advisory Committee, serves in an advisory capacity to City Council and has the following roles, duties, and responsibilities. Consider citizen concerns regarding traffic and parking on city streets. Consider pedestrian and bicycle traffic safety issues. Serve as a forum to evaluate proposals for traffic control devices, signage, and striping. And then serve as a forum to investigate or develop citywide traffic education and communication programs. And so, and then of course, they would advise and the decision would still be from council, but they would be the intake. So one, I just wanted to gather the thoughts of council on, do we want to form this? If we do, I will work with Christina and staff to put together an ordinance that would create this committee. It would come back here for voting. My vision is if we do create it, it would just follow the same appointment cycle and process that we do for all the other committees. And if done in a timely fashion, we could form it in October. The form that we use asking for residents, it would just be one more box on there. Are you interested in the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee? And it would allow us to go through the normal appointment process. Same type of thing, 2-year terms, are we rotating? The same type of things we would do for all the other committees. So I just wanted to kind of get the feel of the room. If this is something we want to move forward with, then I'll work with staff and bring the details forward. And if there's any particular concerns, things you want to be addressed in the ordinance, I'll take that so I can make sure I include that.
You have to be a real property owner?
You do
Just
not
kidding.
need to be a real property owner, but you would be a qualified voter.
You have to have a driver's license. I think that's a great idea. I think especially with the increased traffic that we've experienced and obviously some of the issues that have come up recently with, Noble Ark, parking over here on Sundays with I-9, just all these different issues have come up. We're having to reconstruct roads. How's that going to affect traffic? I mean, there's just a lot of things, I think, and I think it would be a good idea to have feedback. I would, and I don't know if there's a way to do this. Obviously, it depends on who is interested, but I think it would be beneficial to try to have people on the committee from different areas in the city so they can bring to the table their experiences in the traffic in different parts, But I like it.
Awesome, thank you.
Would it be 100% citizen, or would it be like a liaison for the city or PD?
Okay, so that's a good question. So there's some of these advisory committees that I've seen, they have 2 members of staff on it as well as citizens. Most of our committees don't do that. Most of our committees have a staff liaison that is the one on the staff that really kind of manages that committee and manages the agenda and what goes on it and staff advice. And I haven't seen any that have any council members on it at all. And so just wanted to, what do you think? Because there'll probably always be a staff liaison managing the intake, if you will. But I don't know if we wanted a staff member on it voting. I don't know how you feel about that, Scott, so no, prefer
No.
not.
I agree. We just what you said, we'd have a staff person to manage it like we do the other committees. We
The
have a
liaison,
P&Z,
yeah.
we have MDD, et cetera. Same concept.
I'm not sold on the idea.
Okay.
I'll go the other way. I think we have a lot of committees that we have a hard time staffing anyway. I'm not saying that I'm totally adverse to the idea. I would like to see PD involvement because traffic involves a lot of rules and requirements and state laws that don't need to come before council if that gets nipped in the bud, should we go ahead and create this function.
And it's an interesting point that you said that, because the one city that I read that had staff members, it was a member of the police department and a member, I think, of the Public
Public
Works
Works. I was gonna say, I
Department in
think
there,
both of those.
because they would be part of that discussion. And the other part is, we could also give them a nominal budget so that they could just take care of signs and stuff without coming to council.
I agree. We're
Yeah,
not in
okay.
the stop sign business.
Yeah, I
so,
mean,
you know,
we have to do, for stop signs particularly, though, we have to sign an ordinance for stop signs. But
absolutely.
other signs, you're right, we could give them the authority to decide to put up signs and not have it come here if we wanted to,
I think,
within whatever our law, our rules say.
I see the possibilities where it could be, but I don't know that our level of traffic and issues, other than aggravated residents that we have problems with, those are issues, I think, that come to city council, raised to city council without the committee, closing of streets, et cetera. So I guess that's my 2 cents on. But if we do go with it, I do think that we need to have staff involvement, for sure.
And that was one other thing I wanted to ask, is the scope of what they would look at. So I think I would be envisioning they would just take on concerns that were brought forward by either residents or staff, and not be a proactively looking committee that's out there looking for issues, you know?
Right.
I think we have enough that are brought forward.
Or perhaps we can send issues to them.
Yes, exactly. And so
Right.
that's what we envision. If someone's coming to staff with a bunch of concerns, or they come to us as citizens to be heard, we could say, we're going to send this request down to the committee for it being addressed.
So the
Yeah.
way I'm seeing it, and I like, in theory, I like the idea. It's kind of when we had some resident concerns recently over the 3-way versus 4-way stop at certain things, and it took up a lot of the mayor's time, a lot of the council's time, et cetera. So if those can be passed on to a committee that can further vet it and think about it and come up with suggestions and ideas, I think that could save us some time. So I like that part of it. I agree that I think PD somehow needs to be involved in that, just from the rules and regulation side. I don't know that they need to be a voting member as much as see the final product before it comes to council, maybe, however we want to do that. The other suggestion I have, just having been on a lot of different boards, 10 seems like a lot of people.
Yep.
So I would suggest that maybe we limit it 5 to 7, odd number, obviously, but 10's just a whole lot of opinions and a whole lot of people, and can get stalemated very quickly. So it's kind of the
Could
thoughts.
we even treat it like a ZBOA, like, or is this, you want them to have set meetings, like quarterly or
So
whatever?
most of them have meetings quarterly, that can be canceled if there's no agenda item. That's most, as I was reading this, most of them have quarterly meetings. Some of them meet monthly, but those are larger cities like Laredo and stuff like that, that probably have more intake, if you will. But I think it's, at least for the purposes of staff support, having a set schedule of when they could be, so they could prepare, and then if not needed, canceling, would probably be better than just ad hoc. Then we got to jump through hoops and.
I know this is a workshop and we're in the infancy of this, but have we asked PD like how they feel about it and what they think, or?
I have not, because I go through Scott, and I did ask Scott his opinion on it.
We have discussed it internally. We've spoken more from the concept of what was mentioned about having staff liaisons and staff support, not so much a voting member, which was mentioned, but we're absolutely, ready and willing to do that.
And I did talk through Scott on what we want it, like, the scope of it. Clearly, we don't want it to go into potholes and road maintenance, just safety and so, so that's kind of that list that I came up with, so that it was focused on that. It's not every road issue, it's just traffic safety.
No ticket writing authority, right?
No.
Just an idea and question, have you thought about you know, we had all of the issues with like the passings of the buses and all of that kind of stuff considered safety. So is this something you think they would,
Yes.
that would also tackle?
So you think about a lot of the things that we had, you know, Hansel and Battle Intense, Noble Lark, parking over here, speeding in certain areas, passing of school buses. Those would come to them for the first discussion, and really what they would do is come up with a proposal through working with staff that would come to us, instead of us having to try to work through suggestions.
And maybe if there's an actually traffic safety committee and it is publicized and known within the community, maybe it would bring up issues that were not known about, or people don't feel like coming to citizens to be heard to
Right.
voice their opinion, or send an email. Maybe that'll generate some more discussion.
And I think you're right. I think if somebody came to me in the street and said, I have a concern about this, I think they'd feel more comfortable. Like, why don't you go to the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee, and you know, they would, you know, they could talk through.
It's
what
your
we could
fellow
do.
residents.
Yeah.
I mean, not that we aren't, but
I honestly think we wouldn't have a hard time filling this board,
No.
which is strange because we have a hard time filling every other board.
I agree.
Yeah. And I'm gonna, just for the record, no, I'm not going to, but I'll put in the ordinance, like, no speed bumps and no roundabouts.
Please suggest 1 million roundabouts for Laura.
Yes. No, but
Automatic expel.
Well, I think
What
what
are
it sounds like is we want to move forward
okay.
with the concept on this. And Christina, we start looking at, I don't know if we can get it in, just looking at timeline, is it 5 June is when we start advertising for, it's around the 1st of June. That leaves 1, maybe 2 council meetings.
Don't challenge me, Greg.
I
can
have
do it.
faith that Laura can do that.
To challenge me out, I can make it
But we also
happen.
have some, I know the next meeting is going to be a little bit more extensive than the meeting
We
tonight.
can have the second reading when we canvass the vote. It's gonna be.
But okay. So I guess what we're saying is then we're going to add it to the agenda for the next meeting.
Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted.
All right?
Yeah. I'm gonna see if I can get this done.
May need to bring a breakfast to that meeting. But, yeah, okay. That'll get us started, so we'll have a proposal on what,
There'll be an ordinance.
Obviously, we'll work with the Mayor Pro Tem, and as mentioned, I think we have some good templates to work off already to get us started on an ordinance and a charter of sorts for the committee, so.
okay.
Ready?
I will let you know if it's not viable, if something happens, so, but I'm gonna do my best.
Even then, I mean, if we didn't, we do multiple advertisements. If we don't make the 5 June date, I know it's detrimental because we advertise it for 2 months.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know that we have to have everything cut and dry by the time we're advertising it. I mean, by the time you're interviewing, we might.
Definitely. Definitely before we vote to add them, right? But
Alright.
yeah, I mean, really, all we need to do is add a box to a Word document saying that's one more option.
I tell you, I can put it on a group chat and I'll have 5 moms
ready to
ready to
roll.
be on that committee.
Okay.
Not that you'll want them, I'm just in general.
We might.
Any questions from anybody here tonight about the, all right? Anything else we need to cover on it, or?
No, I appreciate everyone's input. Thank you very much. I accept the challenge.
We have, that was the only workshop item. We'll move on to reports from staff. And tonight, Summer's going to present the quarterly financial and investment report.
Yes, thank you. Summer Fleming, Director of Finance. This is the financial update and quarterly investment report for the quarter ended March 31st, 2024. The second quarter is important as we're halfway through the fiscal year, and these projections are used as the basis for the upcoming budget and in estimating fund balances for fiscal year end. So starting with the general fund, total revenues are expected to exceed budget by almost $650,000. $160,000 is for tree mitigation fees we've collected, and that'll be reserved in the tree mitigation fund. And that revenue is included in the other category. Property tax collections are also projected to be $158,000 higher than budget. That's due to levy adjustments during the year. Typically, after appraisal protests have been settled, we'll see adjustments to the levy each month from the tax assessor's office. Sales tax so far is trending 10% higher than last year, so I've increased that projection about $100,000. And interest earnings also are projected to be $100,000 higher than budget, as we've not seen a drop in rates yet this year. We're also projecting smaller increases in permits and court revenue as well. Looking at historical property tax collections, through the second quarter, we have collected 94.6% of the tax levy, which is slightly less than the same time last year, but still within an expected range. Sales tax, you can see the trend over the last 5 years. While we are currently averaging 10% higher than last year, we've only collected through January sales, so this projection may still change depending on how we see collections over the next few months. We did experience a spike in residential permits this quarter. Year to date, the city's issued 59 new residential permits as opposed to only 26 during the first half of last year. So we anticipate exceeding budget by about $50,000 in permits. On the expenditure side, in total, we're projecting a savings to budget of almost $375,000, mostly in personnel due to vacancies. Those personnel savings are being partially offset with slight overages in professional services, mostly for legal fees, and in shared services for general liability insurance. Small increase in capital outlay as a couple equipment purchases did come in higher than budget. But with the savings in expenditures and increase in revenue, the general fund is projecting a combined positive variance to budget of a little over $1 million. Now, this does not result in an increase to reserves of $1 million because the amended budget calls for the use of $860,000 of unallocated fund balance. So we're actually projecting to add $160,000 to fund balance this year. Looking at the Strategic Projects Fund, most of the projects are in progress and we're projecting all budgeted funds to be spent. I'll quickly highlight the status of some of these projects. Under the reliable and sustainable infrastructure pillar, we have the Civic Center, as you know, is in the design phase, and the City Hall renovation is coming to an end, so we should see this closed out soon. Rolling Acres Trail Drainage Project is budgeted for a halt system. That's tentatively planned for June. The Tivoli Way Drainage Project was rescoped and rebid, so that contract will be coming to council soon as well. Post Oak Trail is in the final stages and should be complete in about 2 months. Both Dietz Elkhorn projects are in the design phase, and Chartwell Lane and Delta Dawn drainage projects have not yet started. I still need this page. Under the Public Safety and Operational Excellence pillar, we have the Fire and EMS study, which is wrapping up, and we anticipate receiving the final draft from the consultant tomorrow. The presentation of the report and workshop is scheduled for June 6th. For the Fire Station number 3 upgrades, the door openers and generator have been installed. The last component of budgeted safety upgrades is for access control, and staff is working on quotes for that. The city fuel station shows no expenditures to date. However, work has begun. The concrete pad for the tank was poured, and the tank and fuel management software are scheduled for installation this month. And the third-party scanning project is in progress through the city secretary's office and will likely continue into next fiscal year. Moving on to the utility fund. On the revenue side, both water and wastewater actuals to date are basically at 50%, which is where we would expect to be 6 months into the year. Combined revenues for both utilities are projected to be $350,000 above budget. $200,000 of that increase is for impact fees, as we've seen an increase in development indicated previously with the number of permits issued. And interest earnings are also estimated to be $100,000 higher than budget. For the consumption-based revenues, residential water is expected to exceed budget by about $150,000 as we are still in drought stage 2. But wastewater residential is projecting a shortfall to budget. The winter averages calculated from December to February were a little bit lower than the estimated averages we used during the budget process, so that's accounting for some of the shortfall. but we're still expecting wastewater revenues to be about $700,000 higher than last year after implementing the new rate structure and volumetric rate. That was the desired outcome from the rate study recommendation in order for wastewater revenues to support wastewater operations. Utility expenses are trending very close to budget, with the variance almost entirely in personnel. We're projecting small overages in supplies and maintenance as well as services, but overall, we're expected to have $84,000 in savings from budget. The increase in revenues combined with these savings equates to an estimated net income in both utilities of about $281,000. Are there any questions on the financial update before I move on to the investment reports? All right. Oh, yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Just real quick, on the new residential permits that you had noted, that's not necessarily new homes, but any kind of modification, permit, remodels, or is that all new homes?
That is specifically for new residential
So new
permits. So that
homes.
one is new homes,
Okay.
yes.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Just so I understand, I know you combined both utilities, but specifically for wastewater, will the income this year exceed the expenditures
Yes,
for the first time
yes.
ever?
Yes.
Well, since I know, yeah. Exciting.
Mhm.
Okay, and how much will it expend? Just be a little bit over, or
I would have to,
break it apart?
yes.
Okay, don't worry about that. That's fine.
It's part of the full financial report that's including the agenda packet.
I will look. Thank you.
All right. For the investment report, this slide goes with the handout provided as it was not included in the agenda packet. But we started the second quarter with $21.5 million in investments in the local government pools, Tex Pool and Texas Class, and ended the quarter with a combined balance of $22.1 million. Net deposits during the quarter totaled $270,210. That consists of $2.5 million in property tax collections and $2.2 million in withdrawals for operating costs and the annual principal debt service payment made in February. These investments earned $298,678 in interest this quarter and $555,000 year to date. In the handout, you'll notice the interest rate comparison shows the pools are maintaining competitive rates to treasuries and short-term CDs, but we continue to monitor the interest rate environment for future diversification. The investment report handout and the full financial report will be posted on the city's finance department webpage under financial reports. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
What's the duration of the Texas Class? Do you know the average duration of those? Is it a year or less, or is it 2 years or longer? Do you
Well,
know?
it has the weighted average maturity. I think that's a column on there. It might be close to 59 days.
Oh, I see. It's over here on the right. Okay, so it's like a, okay, very short. Okay.
Anybody else? Any questions for Summer from anybody else here? Thank you, Summer.
Okay, thank you.
Very good presentation. Well, that completes all the items that we had on the agenda tonight for consideration by council. Does any council member have any announcements that they'd like to make as part of the meeting tonight? Yes, ma'am.
I'm sure you're going to bring this up, but Election Day is on Saturday, May 4th. You can vote in this room.
7 to 7.
Yep. No matter where you live, whatever county, as long as you're a Fair Oaks resident,
Correct.
you can vote here.
What?
And a qualified registered voter.
And you're registered.
Have to be registered.
Got any other announcements? Does any council member have any items that they would like added to a future agenda? And we have no need to go into executive session tonight. Christine, anything I missed, or? Wow, Scott, anything else we
I
need to
got
cover? Or
I feel like we should add more. Should we just write the ordinance right now?
All right. I have the time is 7:14 and we are adjourned. Thank you all.